course, the songbook. Whoops. Alrighty. All right. Whoops. I've used these glasses. We are ready to roll. Whoops. Okay. These glasses are not ideal. Namo Tulasi Krishna Prayasi Namo Namah Hare Krishna Seva Bhava Hey Avila Shri Hare Krishna Seva Bhava Hey Avila Sharanoi Tara Manchapuna Holy Kripa Kori Koratare Vrindavana Vasi Hey Tomar Sharanoi Tara Manchapuna Holy Kripakari Gautare Vrindavana Vasi Murahe Abhilash Kunjerio Vanas Murahe Abhilash Kunjerio Vilas Nayane Rivasana Yugalam Pasi Hari Gauri Koroni Jatasi Neve Dandara Sakiranugata Gora Seva Hari Gauri Koroni Jatasi Dina Krishna Nazikoi Hey Namo Hoy Shiradha Preme Sadayana Bhase Dina Krishna Nazikoi Hey Namo Hoy Shiradha Preme Sadayana Bhase Sri Radha Govinda Preme Sadayana Bhase Yankane Japapani Brahma Chichigan Java Jani Jani Prana Shanti Taksina Pare Pujay Jani Gani Chapapani Rama Chichikan Java Jani Jani Prana Shanti Taksina Pare Pujay Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Sasi Deve Sasi Deve Sasi Deve Jaya Sasi Deve Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvatacharya all Stiptela Shi Shimad His Divine Grace Savaya Chananada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantagoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridasa Thakura Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopikapath Shaya Mukunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturanam Ki Jai Jagadasami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimadvilasi Devi Ki Jai Samveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Go. All glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees, all glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Namah Om Vishnupriya, Krishna Vastaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini, Namani Namaste, Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pacharni, Nivishesha Shunyavadi, Paschachate Shatarni. Translation: O Tulsi, beloved of Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire is to obtain the service of Shri Shri Radha Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has their wishes fulfilled. Bestowing your mercy, you make them a resident of Vrindavana. My desire is that you will also grant me a residence in the pleasure groves of Shri Vrindavan Dham. Thus, within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of the coward damsels of Braja. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maidservant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna prays, may I always swim in the love of Shri Radha and Govinda. Haridasa Thakura ki jai. Okay, so now we'll continue with our reading of the Chaitanya Bhagavat. And in this section of the Chaitanya Bhagavat, we're reading about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's second marriage to Vishnupriya. First marriage was to Lakshmipriya. Lakshmipriya passed away because she was feeling so much separation from Lord Chaitanya when he was visiting East Bengal that she decided to join him spiritually in an materially unmanifest form. So, then, in this particular section, Lord Chaitanya gets married a second time to Vishnupriya Devi Dasi. And we're reading about the decorations they're doing for the marriage and how they're decorating Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And anyway, it's an interesting thing. As I mentioned yesterday, we do not emulate or copy these particular marriage ceremonies. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, we do not copy these marriage ceremonies. They're very elaborate and they're very traditional in a certain part of India, but they're not necessary. The necessary thing is that people make promises and vows which they keep. The whole purpose of the marriage ceremony is for people to make promises, and you keep your promises no matter what. Very, very important. And also get the blessings of the Vaishnavas and get the blessings of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now we will share the screen. Om Ganat Tividanda Shaganan Shana Shalakya Chakshur Miditam Yena Tasmai Shigarve Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. Okay, share the screen. Chaitanya Bhagavat ki jai. Here we go. All right. And one little addition here. Good. Alrighty. Okay. So we're just reading the English. His ears were adorned. This is Lord Chaitanya, of course. Nimai are Nimai. Like Prabhupada one time said, in regard to Lord Chaitanya's sannyas, he said, our Nimai left his little world for the big world of Krishna when he took sannyas. It's such a wonderful expression that Prabhupada gave. His ears were adorned with gold earrings, and his arms were decorated with various jeweled armlets. In this way, everyone joyfully decorated the Lord's limbs with appropriate items. On seeing the beautifully decorated form of the Lord, all the assembled men and women were overwhelmed and forgot themselves. At mid-afternoon, everyone said, now let us begin our auspicious journey. We will pass through the streets of Navadvip for a few hours and arrive at the bride's house right at dusk. At that time, Buddhivanta Khan happily brought an exquisite palanquin for the Lord. Wow. Musical instruments and singing created a tumult, while the Brahmanas chanted auspicious Vedic mantras. Professional blessers began to recite various prayers. The whole scene appeared as if bliss personified had advented. Lord Gauranga circumambulated his mother and offered obeisances to the Brahmanas. Then as he got into the palanquin, auspicious sounds of Jaya, Jaya were heard in all directions. As the women joined in with sounds of Ulu Dwani, that's Ulu, nothing other than auspicious vibrations could be heard. The Lord's procession first proceeded to the bank of the Ganges, where the half moon was seen overhead. Wow. Thousands of lamps were lit and various fireworks were set off. The procession was led by Buddhivanta Khan's infantry, followed by the city tax collectors. They in turn were followed by people carrying various colored flags. Next came a group of jesters who dressed in various costumes. That's really nice. They were followed by diverse groups of dancers who all danced jubilantly. Various musical instruments were played like jayadakas, viradakas, mridangas, kahalas, kettle drums, snare drums, conchos, flutes, karitals, varangas, horns, and pancha shabdis. Who can name all the instruments that were played? Millions of children danced along with the music while the Lord watched and smiled. What to speak of the children, even the learned scholars gave up their inhibitions and danced. As they arrived on the bank of the Ganges, they sang, danced, and played musical instruments for some time. They showered flowers on the Ganges and offered her obeisances. Then they proceeded to happily move through the streets of Navadvip. Everyone was astonished to see the extraordinary marriage procession. They remarked, we've seen large marriages in the past, but we've never seen anything as opulent as this. The pious men and women of Nadia who saw the Lord's marriage procession all floated in an ocean of bliss. Those Brahmanas who had beautiful daughters at home simply lamented. We are most unfortunate. So how could we marry our daughters to such a boy? In other words, they missed out on the opportunity. I offer my obeisances unto the residences. Actually, the spelling is wrong. Residence. The spelling is completely wrong. It should be residents of Navadvip who are qualified to see such pastimes. In this way, the Lord joyfully moved throughout every quarter of Navadvip. Then at dusk, the procession arrived at the house of Sanatan Mishra. At that time, there was a tumultuous sound of uludwani, that's the ladies going, ooh, and the musicians of both parties competed with each other. Sanatan Mishra came out and greeted the Lord with great respect. He escorted the groom off the palanquin, embraced him, and offered him a suitable seat. As Sanatan Mishra showered the groom with flowers, he forgot himself in happiness. Then Sanatan Mishra brought the appropriate ingredients and sat down to offer welcome to his son-in-law. He duly performed the welcome ceremony by offering pada arya, achamaniya, cloth, and ornaments. So these are different things done during the marriage ceremony. Then Sanatan Mishra's wife and other ladies also welcomed the groom according to the prescribed regulations. She first placed durva grass and rice paddy on the head of the Lord. Then she offered him arti with a ghee lamp of 7 wicks. They showered the Lord with puff rice paddy and coins while uttering sounds of triumph, and in this way all the rituals in current practice were performed. Vishnupriya, who was nicely decorated, was then carried on a seat to the marriage arena. Thereafter, the Lord's relatives joyfully lifted him by raising his seat. Following the current practice, the Lord was blindfolded with a cloth, and the bride was made to circumambulate him 7 times. So the way we usually do it, or we're doing the marriage ceremony, is that the girl is, let's say, covered, not covered, but, blocked. The boy's vision is blocked by the girl's friends who are holding a big piece of cloth as she circumambulates all around the ceremony. So the whole point is that the groom is not supposed to see the bride until she's finished her circumambulation. Then they see each other for the first time, and then they fall in love. So, of course, in this particular explanation, it's real love, because that's the Lord and his consort, his internal energy. But in the material world, this falling in love is what? Jayato Vishyakpum Sam Sangha Station Bajayate. Sangatsa Jayate Kama Kama Krona Bajayate, which means contemplating sense objects, what you're going to use or who you're going to use for your own sense gratification. Then you get attached, then you get lusty, then you get good and angry. Just like I was talking to a couple yesterday, and I was saying, if you want to have peace in your house and the goddess of fortune to be there, the husband and wife should never argue with each other. And then the children would grow up to be Krishna conscious. Of course, the children were there at the same time that I was saying this to the couple, and the children looked at each other and started laughing. In other words, arguments. So after circumambulation, Vishnupriya came before the Lord and offered him obeisances. All the ladies then showered flowers on the couple, and the two groups of musicians began to play. As the men and women all offered loud praise from all sides, it appeared as though the personification of happiness had incarnated there. The universal mother, Vishnupriya, then offered a flower garland to the Lord and surrendered herself at his lotus feet. Then Lord Gaurasundar sweetly smiled as he offered a flower garland to Vishnupriya. So this is exchange of garlands. This is traditionally called the Gandharva rite. Gandharva rite is like when the Gandharvas, or those who follow the Gandharva rite, had a marriage, it was simply an exchange of garlands. It's better than the Rakshasa rite of marriage, because in the Rakshasa rite of marriage, then the man kidnaps the girl, which is all right. I mean, Krishna did it with Rukmini. Arjuna did it with Subhadra. So, perfectly all right. But don't do it in America. Thereafter, Lakshmi and Narayan happily showered flowers on each other. Of course, that's called eloping in America. Unseen by common people, the demigods headed by Brahma joyfully showered flowers on the couple. Then the associates of the bride lifted her, and the associates of the groom lifted him in a joyous competition over who could lift higher. I like that one. Wow. I think we should do this. That's pretty cool. Wow. Who can lift the other one higher? That's pretty good. Got to get some strong men and strong women there. One moment the associates of the Lord would win, and the next moment the associates of Vishnupriya would win. The people would smile as they informed the Lord, who was still blindfolded, of the results. Oh my God. The Lord smiled sweetly in reciprocation. In this way, everyone there floated in an ocean of ecstasy. Thousands of torches illuminated the arena, and nothing could be heard other than the singing and playing of musical instruments. At the time when the bride and groom exchanged glances, the tumultuous sound of music filled the entire universe. After exchanging glances, I'm sure Lord Chaitanya didn't have the blindfold on when he was exchanging glances, Sri Gaurasundar sat down with Vishnupriya. At that time, the ecstatic Sri Sanatan Mishra sat down to offer his daughter in marriage. Following the Vedic injunctions, Sanatan Mishra offered the Lord Paja, Arya, and Ajamaniya. Then he chanted the prescribed mantras for giving his daughter in marriage. The desire to please Lord Vishnu, Sanatan Mishra then offered his daughter into the sacred hands of the Lord. He thereafter joyfully gave cows, land, bedding, servants, and maidservants to the couple. We don't really do that. Sanatan Mishra invited Vishnupriya to sit on the Lord's left side and then began to perform the fire sacrifice. After performing, they switch sides. After performing the rituals prescribed by the Vedas and local customs, Sanatan Mishra took the couple inside the house. Vaikuntha manifested in the house of Sanatan Mishra. Finally, they all sat to take their meal. After taking their meal, the Supreme Lord and his wife joyfully spent the auspicious night together. So, I guess it would be nice to do some of these things. Who can describe the happiness enjoyed by Sanatan Mishra and his family members? Now, as I'm reciting this, I'm also thinking, oh my God, very soon after this, Lord Chaitanya is going to take sannyas. They have this big celebration, and then Lord Chaitanya is going to take sannyas and leave Vishnupriya alone. And what is Sanatan Mishra going to think about this? What is everyone going to think about this? After this joyous celebration, they must have been just like extremely depressed. Kings of the past like Nandajit, Janaka, Bhishmaka, and Jambavan all experienced good fortune. Let's go. Let's do this. Ooh, long report. Okay. That same good fortune was now experienced by Sanatan Mishra and his family due to the previous service of Lord Vishnu. The next morning, the most fortunate Sanatan Mishra executed all the necessary traditional rituals. In the afternoon, when it was time for the Lord to return home, the musicians, singers, and dancers began their performances. The sound of joy filled all directions, and the ladies joined in making auspicious sounds of ulu twani ulu. The Brahmanas offered their blessings by reciting verses appropriate for an auspicious journey. The musicians competitively played their dakas, kettle drums, shanai, radangas, and karatalas. So the right pronunciation is karatala, because in this country we say it's cartels. Because, it'd be much more difficult to say karatalas. Can you play the karatalas? Be very difficult. The Lord, can you imagine? Can I have my karatalas? The Lord offered his obeisances to respectable persons there and sat on a palanquin with Vishnupriya. Then the best of the Brahmanas departed along with his associates while everyone chanted, Hari, Hari. Everyone who saw the Lord on the way glorified him with appropriate words. The lady has said she is very fortunate. She must have served Lakshmi and Parvati for many lifetimes. Someone said they look just like Shiva and Parvati, while someone else said they look like Lakshmi and Lord Hari. Another person said this couple looks just like Kamadev and Rati, and someone said they look like Indra and Sachi. Someone else said they look like Rama and Sita. In this way, all the pious ladies talked amongst themselves. The men and women of Nadi were so fortunate that they were able to see the opulences of the Supreme Lord and his consort. By the auspicious glance of Lakshmi Narayan, all the people of Nadi became happy in all respects. As the Lord's marriage party passed through the streets, they danced, sang, played musical instruments, and showered flowers in great ecstasy. At an auspicious moment, the Lord and Vishnupriya arrived home in a merry mood. Thereupon, Mother Sachi and other chaste women joyfully welcomed their daughter-in-law home. As Lakshmi and Ryan sat inside the house, the whole house was filled with sounds of joy. The ecstasy that was experienced there is beyond words, therefore who can describe its glories? Anyone who sees the marriage ceremony of the Supreme Lord is freed from all sinful reactions and returns to Vaikuntha. Wow. Because the Lord has allowed everyone to see his marriage, he is known as Daya Maya, or he who is most merciful, and Dinanatha, or he who is the Lord of the fallen. Dinanath, that's a beautiful name. Thereafter, the Lord satisfied everyone, the dancers, the professional blessers, and the beggars with cloth, money, and sweet words. The Lord also happily gave cloth to each of the Brahmanas, relatives, and friends. Then the Lord mercifully embraced Buddhimanta Khan, who felt such ecstasy that it is beyond all description. Because remember, Buddhimanta Khan was the one who sponsored the whole thing. Although the Vedas describe the Lord's appearance and disappearance, there's actually no end to his pastimes. Who has the ability to describe in 100 years the pastimes that the Lord performs in half an hour? I have accepted the order of Nityananda Swarupa on my head, and by his mercy I am briefly writing about these pastimes, because his guru was Lord Nityananda. Vrindavan Thakur's guru is Lord Nityananda. Lord Nityananda said you should write about these pastimes. Whoever reads or hears these pastimes of the Supreme Lord certainly associates with Lord Gora Chandra Haribo. Accepting Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Prabhu as my life and soul, I, Vrindavan Das, sing the glories of their lotus feet. Thus ends this English translation of the Gaudiya Vasha commentary on Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat Adikanda, Chapter 15, entitled The Marriage of Sri Vishnupriya. Wow, Chapter 16. It is so much nectar, unbelievable nectar. Chapter 16, The Glories of Sri Haridasa Thakura. So we're going to skip the chapter summary because it'll spoil all the suspense. There we go. Let's go back. All glories to Shri Gaurasundra, the friend of the poor. All glories to the Supreme Lord, the beloved of Lakshmi. Haribo, all glories to Lord Chaitanya. All glories to the Lord who was incarnated to protect the devotees. All glories to him who enjoys the chanting of the holy names and who is the eternal absolute truth. All glories to Sri Gauranga along with his associates. By hearing the topics of Lord Chaitanya, one attains devotional service to the Lord. The topics of Adhikanda are like a stream of nectar, full of the enchanting descriptions of Lord Gauranga's pastimes. In this way, the Lord of Vaikuntha continued teaching as a householder. The Lord incarnated to distribute love and devotion, but by his supreme will, he had not yet begun. The entire world was devoid of spiritual practice, for everyone was attached to insignificant sense gratification. Even those who recited or heard Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam never engaged in Sankirtana. The devotees performed kirtan among themselves while simply clapping their hands. Yet people still criticize them by saying, "Why are they chanting so loudly?" I am the Supreme Brahman. Within me sits the Absolute Truth. So where's the difference between master and servant? Real long purple. Wow. The materialists said, they loudly chant the names of Hari to attract attention for collecting alms. That means getting donations. The people of Nadia met together and decided, let us break their doors and houses. Wow. Hearing this, all the devotees felt great distress. They could not even find anyone qualified to speak with. The devotees saw the entire world as devoid of devotional service, so they prayed to Krishna in great distress. At that time, Haridasa Thakura arrived in Navadvip. He was the personification of pure devotion to Lord Vishnu. Now hear the topics of Srila Haridasa Thakura, for by hearing this narration, one certainly attains Krishna. Haridasa Thakura appeared in the village of Putana, and as a result, that province is filled with kirtan even today. After residing there for some time, he came to the bank of the Ganges at Pulia, near Shantipura. Upon obtaining Haridasa's association, Advaitacharya roared in unlimited ecstasy. Wow. Similarly, in the association of Advaita Prabhu, Haridasa Thakura floated in the waves of the ocean of Krishna consciousness. Haridas would continually wander on the banks of the Ganges while loudly chanting the names of Krishna. Haridas was most renounced in the matter of material enjoyment, and his mouth was always beautified with the chanting of Lord Krishna's names. He did not give up chanting the names of Govinda for even a moment, and as a result, he was constantly manifesting various ecstatic symptoms. Sometimes he danced alone, and sometimes he roared like a mad lion. Sometimes he cried loudly, and sometimes he laughed loudly. Sometimes he roared loudly, and sometimes he fell to the ground unconscious. Sometimes he would utter some unnatural sounds for which he would later give some profound meaning. He manifested all the different ecstatic symptoms like crying, hair standing on end, laughing, losing consciousness, and perspiring. So some of these are anubhavas, some of these are ashtasattvika bhavas, and some are vyabhachari bhavas. As soon as Haridasa Thakura began to dance, these symptoms would all manifest in his body. Haridasa's entire body became wet as tears of love flowed from his eyes. Even staunch atheists would offer him respect. Even Brahma and Shiva were satisfied to see the wonderful manifestation of Haridasa's hair standing on end. All the Brahmanas of Pulia were overwhelmed upon seeing Haridas. While Haridas Prabhu resided in Pulia, everyone there developed great faith in him. Haridas would regularly take bath in the Ganges and then loudly chant the names of Hari while wandering about. The Qazi went to the king of Bengal and complained about Haridas. So the Qazi is justice of the peace or something like that. Haridas is a Muslim, but he follows the religion of the Hindus. Please call him and consider his case. Arrest him immediately. Hearing the words of the sinful Qazi, the sinful king immediately called for Haridas. By the mercy of Krishna, Sri Haridas was not even afraid of death personified. So what to speak of the Muslim rulers? Chanting the name of Krishna, he immediately went to see the king. Hearing about Haridas's departure to see the king, pious persons felt morose in the midst of their happiness. When the respectable persons in prison heard that Haridas had come to see the king, they became pleased at heart because they would have good association. Haridas is a great Vaishnava. By seeing him, our distress due to imprisonment will be vanquished. The prisoners tactfully persuaded the guards to let them see Haridas without disturbance. When Haridas came there and saw the prisoners, he glanced mercifully upon them. Seeing the lotus feet of Haridasa Thakura, all the prisoners offered obeisances to him. This is great prison preaching. Haridasa's hands reached to his knees. He has, in other words, all the signs of a Mahapurush. His eyes were like lotus petals, and his enchanting moon-like face was beyond compare. As everyone devotedly offered obeisances to him, ecstatic devotional symptoms manifest in their bodies. When Haridas saw the prisoners' devotion, he mercifully smiled at them. With a curious smile, Haridas gave them an ambiguous blessing. Stay there. Stay as you are now. Unable to understand his equivocal words, the prisoners felt morose. In other words, he thought they were being blessed. They thought, that they were being blessed by Haridasa Thakura to remain in prison. But no, he was saying, be ecstatic in Krishna consciousness as you are now. Shortly however, Haridas mercifully explained the meaning of the mysterious blessing. You have not understood the meaning of the blessings I gave, and therefore you are lamenting. I never award inauspicious benedictions. Carefully try to understand as I explain. As your minds are presently fixed on Krishna, let them stay that way forever. That's all. Wasn't saying anything about them remaining in prison forever. Now you can all together chant, constantly chant the names of Krishna and think of Krishna. Here you have no envy or trouble from others, so you can humbly chant and think of Krishna. Otherwise, if you again return to material enjoyment by bad association, you forget everything about Krishna. One cannot achieve love for Krishna as long as he is engaged in sense gratification. You should know for certain that Krishna is far away from such persons. The mind that is absorbed in material enjoyment is a great disturbance. Attachment for wife and children are the binding ropes of illusion that lead one to death. If by providence a fortunate person achieves the association of a devotee, he gives up his attachment for material enjoyment and worships Krishna. In conclusion, the nature of material enjoyment is that one makes the same mistake again and again. That's called chewing the already chewed. Therefore, I did not mean stay there in prison, but rather stay free from thoughts of material enjoyment and always chant the name of Hare. Do not even slightly lament that I gave you this blessing in an ambiguous way. I glance mercifully on all living entities. May you all have firm devotion to Lord Krishna. Don't worry. I guarantee that within 2 weeks or 3 days, you will be freed. Whether you are a householder or renunciant, whatever you are, don't forget these instructions at any cost. After offering the prisoners his best wishes, Haridas went before the king. When the king saw Haridas's brilliant effulgence, he respectfully offered him a seat. Then the king personally inquired, my dear brother, why do you have such a mentality? By good fortune, you were born a Muslim. So why do you follow the religious practices of the Hindus? We don't even eat rice that's been touched by the Hindus. So why are you degrading yourself? You've been born in a high family. You're transgressing your caste and religion to follow the religion of others. How will you attain salvation? Whatever sinful activities you unknowingly perform can be cleared by uttering kalma. And of course, that's it. Muslim prayer. Means word or statement, comma or verse or passage from the Quran indicating the acceptance of Muhammad's Islam religion. That is, there is one God, and that's Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. That's it. After hearing the king, who was illusioned by Maya, Haridasa simply laughed and said, "How wonderfully the illusory energy acts." He then sweetly said to the king, "Listen, dear sir, the Supreme Lord of all is one without a second. The Hindus and Muslims differentiate the Lord only by name, but in spiritual vision the Lord is one. This is confirmed in the Puranas and the Quran. The pure, eternal, non-dual, inexhaustible Lord sits in the heart of everyone." Of course we know that. That Lord induces everyone to work in a particular way, and everyone in the entire world acts accordingly. The names and qualities of that Lord are chanted by everyone according to the respective spiritual injunctions. The Supreme Lord accepts the devotion of everyone, but if anyone is envious of his children, then he retaliates. Therefore, I am only acting under the inspiration of the Supreme Lord. By his own desire, a Hindu Brahmin may also become a Muslim. What can the Hindus do? That is his karma. If one is already dead, then what is the use of killing him? Dear sir, now you can judge. If I'm at fault, then you may punish me. Hearing Haridasa's conclusive statements, the Muslims were all satisfied. Only the sinful Qazi instigated the king by saying, "Punish him!" This miscreant will simply create other miscreants and will bring a bad name to the Muslim community. Therefore, punish him in an exemplary way, or at least make him recite the confession from the Quran. The king again requested Haridasa, "Oh, brother, just recite the confession from the Quran and you'll have nothing to worry about. Otherwise, the sinful Qazis will punish you and you'll be forced to recite the Quran anyway. In this way, you'll be humiliated." So the king actually wanted to let Haridasa off really easily. Haridasa said, "One cannot do anything other than what the Supreme Lord desires. Know for certain that the Lord awards the results of one's offenses. Even if my body is cut into pieces and I give up my life, I will never give up chanting the Lord's holy name." This should be our determination. Wow. No matter what, we should never give it up. It reminds me of one disciple who recently passed away. He had cancer. And even when he was unconscious, his hand was fingering the beads and he was chanting, even unconscious, and he left his body in such a way. After hearing Haridasa's statement, the king asked the Qazi, "Now what will you do with him?" The Qazi replied, "He should be beaten in the 22 marketplaces. Take his life in this way, that is my opinion." If he survives being beaten in 22 marketplaces, then we'll understand that he's actually knowledgeable and his words are true. The Qazi then called the guards and sternly ordered them, "Beat him in such a way that he will die. If a Muslim who follows the Hindu religion is killed, then he'll be delivered from that sin." Of course, that's even going on today, Sometimes someone in the Muslim religion decides to marry someone from the Hindu religion or convert, and then there's honor killing. The family even asks their family members, like the mother will ask her son, to kill his daughter, his sister. Instigated by the words of the sinful Qazi, the sinful king gave his order, and the miscreant guards arrested Haridasa. The miscreant guards thereafter took Haridasa from market to market and mercilessly beat him. Haridasa simply remembered the name of Krishna, and on account of that ecstatic remembrance, he felt no pain. The pious people were greatly distressed to see the excessive beating of Haridasa. Someone said, "The entire kingdom will be destroyed because they're torturing such a saintly person." Someone angrily cursed the king and the Qazi, and someone else prepared to fight them. Another person fell at the feet of the Muslims and said, "I'll give you some money if you don't beat him so hard." Nevertheless, the sinful guards showed no mercy, and they continued angrily beating Haridas from market to market. By the mercy of Krishna, Haridas felt no pain whatsoever in spite of such heavy beating. The scriptures explain that Prahlad felt no pain when he was mercilessly beaten by the demons. In the same way, Haridas felt no pain as he was mercilessly beaten by the Muslims. What to speak of Haridas himself, even one who remembers his activities is immediately relieved of all material miseries. Wow. Rather, Haridas felt sorry for the sinful guards who were engaged in beating him, and he prayed. He prayed for them. "O Krishna, be merciful on these living entities. Forgive their offense of torturing me." Wow. In this way, the sinful guards beat Haridasa Thakura in the various marketplaces. They beat him severely in order to kill him, but Haridas was not even disturbed by their beating. The Muslims were astonished to see this and thought, "Can a human being survive after such a beating? If we beat someone in 2 or 3 marketplaces, they die. But we've beaten him in 22 marketplaces." They all thought, "He has not died, and moreover, we see that he is smiling. Is he a powerful saint?" The Muslims then said, "Oh, Haridas will be killed because of you. Although we've beaten you so much, you're still alive. Therefore, the Qazi will kill us." Haridas smiled and said, "If my remaining alive creates a problem for you, then I will give up my body right now." After saying this, Haridas entered into deep meditation on Krishna. Samadhi. Haridas, who was endowed with all mystic powers, then became motionless and his breathing stopped. Seeing this, the Muslims were struck with wonder, and they took the lifeless body of Haridas before the king. King ordered them, "Bury him." But the Qazi countered, "Then he will achieve a higher destination." He was already born in a good Muslim family, but he engaged in degraded Hindu practices. Therefore, he does not deserve a higher destination. If we bury him, he will certainly attain a better destination. His next life, better throw him in the Ganges so that he'll suffer forever. Following the Qazi's instructions, the guard took Haridas's body to throw in the Ganges. As the Muslims were about to throw his body in the Ganges, Haridas sat there, immovable. As Haridas sat there in ecstatic meditation, Lord Vishnupriya entered his body. Who had the power to move Haridas's body when it had become the abode of Lord Vishnupriya? As the strongest Muslims tried to push Haridas, they found he was as immovable as a stone pillar. Haridas remained absorbed in the nectarian ocean of love for Krishna, had no external feelings. He did not even know whether he was in the sky, on the land, or in the waters of the Ganges. Haridas had the same ability as Prahlad Maharaj to remain fixed in remembrance on the Supreme Lord. Wow. Wow. This is not at all astonishing for Haridas, for Lord Gaurachandra constantly resides in his heart. While fighting with the demons, Hanuman respectfully welcomed the Brahmastra weapon released by Indrajit. Similarly, Haridasa Thakura accepted the beating of the Muslims in order to teach the world. Even if I experience unlimited misery and die, I will never give up chanting the Lord's holy name. Otherwise, since Haridas was personally protected by Govinda, how could anyone harm him? What to speak of Haridas himself, even one who remembers his activities is immediately relieved of all material miseries. Haridas, who had the power to control the universe, was certainly one of the topmost devotees of Sri Chaitanya. After Haridas floated in the Ganges for some time, he regained his external consciousness by the will of the Lord. He then came to the shore and got out of the water in great ecstasy. In this way, he started for Apulia while loudly chanting the names of Krishna. Seeing the extraordinary potency of Haridas, the Muslims' minds changed and they forgot their envy. The Muslims considered Haridas a powerful saint, so they offered him obeisances. Thus, they were all delivered from material bondage. Some time after regaining his consciousness, Haridas met the king of Bengal and laughed mercifully. With great awe and reverence, the king folded his hands and humbly said to Haridas, "Now I know for certain you are a powerful saint, for you are firmly convinced that the Supreme Lord is one. All the so-called yogis and gyanis simply speak big words, but you've actually attained perfection. Oh, sir, I've personally come to meet you. Please, therefore, forgive all my offenses. You are equal to everyone, both friend and enemy, but there's no one in the three worlds who can understand you. Haridasa Thakura ki jai. So we'll stop sharing. Amazing story. I love that story. I mean, I heard the story before, but not with such detail as this. And this is really a wonderful, wonderful detail. I'm so blessed to be able to hear this story. Okay, so who has a question? You can type. You're allowed to unmute yourselves now. You can type in the text window, or you can raise your hand, or you can unmute yourself after hearing this ecstatic recitation. You should never give up chanting, no matter what happens. Never give up chanting. Never, 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 never. So, all right. Anybody have any questions? Gopal, okay, you have a question.
Please accept my obeisance, Srila Gurudev.
Anybody?
Regarding Vishnupriya Devi,
Yeah,
you were mentioning, we haven't read about it yet, but you were mentioning how she married the Lord with great um, pomp and circumstance, and it was so wonderful, and she was so happy, and everyone was lamenting they weren't her. But then soon he was going to take sannyas, and a very young girl, and her whole life she would be, from an external point of view, suffering. And
yeah,
then we see the same thing in Krishna's pastimes and Lord
yeah,
Ramachandra's pastimes,
yeah.
that whoever marries the Supreme Personality of Godhead doesn't do so for long.
Now, that's not
And then,
necessarily true. In Dwarka, they did it for a long time. They were married for a very long time.
mm,
Those say 16,108 wives. They had a very, they had children, grandchildren, great grandchildren. So they were with Krishna for a very long time.
that's fair.
So
But,
yes,
but
so
it does seem like there's at least a pattern of behavior um, for Krishna and his incarnations, that he causes lamentation for, or allows lamentation, or somehow or other facilitates lamentation for those that want to get the closest to him. So how do we
uh,
take encouragement from this instead of
for those who
discouragement?
are actually especially favored, he gives them the mood of separation. And that mood of separation is simultaneously, it's bittersweet, simultaneously painful, but the greatest nectar. That's described in the Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Hmm.
So for us to understand it, it's difficult in, the conditioned stage of life, because when we're separated, we're separated. When we're together, we're also separated. But for Vishnupriya, whether externally together, externally separated, they're always together. For us, whether externally separated, externally together, we're always apart.
Hmm.
So we should lament about ourselves, because we are living in the deepest, darkest ditch of material stool enjoyment, suffering. And we're like the worm that's pulled out of the stool, and the worm just like crawls back in. I was going to say jump in, but worms don't jump. And we're the pig who goes around like cleaning out the sewers in Vrindavan.
Hmm.
It's interesting, pigs. I haven't seen many pigs in Govardhan. It's interesting.
Hmm.
I think the reason is that people catch them to sell them.
Huh.
And,
That's horrible.
yeah, yeah, because I saw people one time with a net just catching a whole bunch of pigs in Govardhan.
Hmm.
Okay, on that happy
Thank you,
note.
Guru.
So, okay, anyone else have a question? raise your hand or unmute yourself or type in the text window. Anyway, I mean, Krishna consciousness is so amazing. I mean, that even before the class, I received a brief explanation of these Ajanta caves and Ellora caves that are thousands and thousands of years old, and they're built with technology that we don't understand, that we couldn't even do it with our laser cutting devices. So, this history, this Krishna consciousness, whether we're talking about Lord Chaitanya's pastimes or Krishna's pastimes or Ram's pastimes, are the great wealth of this world. And they far transcend any particular understanding we have of technology, our so-called modern technology that we're very, very attached to. I mean, if any of you are interested, you should just look up the information about the Ajanta caves, the Ellora caves, and just like, wow, they couldn't even be built with the technology we have now. Amazing. So I mean, this really increases your faith in Krishna consciousness and Vedic civilization. One of the archaeologists and the scientists, they have this knowledge filter, so they deny anything that contradicts with their inherent biases. Like they're thinking that civilization started in Egypt with the pyramids. But actually, even the largest pyramid in Giza would fit inside, would be a tiny object inside these the Ajanta caves and the Ellora caves. I mean, it's just amazing. An intricate carving. It's amazing. I mean, we should not underestimate the antiquity and the spiritual culture of India, or Bharatvarsh, not India, sorry. No such thing as India. India is non existent. Okay, on that happy note, we will see you all tomorrow.